Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So if you've been watching my last few videos, I've been working on my dash for my IS300. I had refurbished my 2001 non-melting dash. I painted the trim and I got everything ready to put in the car. So today we're gonna go ahead and take the old 2002 dash out of the car, clean everything up, get all that old melted crap off my pillars and all my trim and everything inside the car, and go ahead and put the new one in. So stay tuned. So here's the dash right here that I refinished on one of my last videos recently. And you can see I redid all the trim that used to be that two-tone in this car to the same color as my car, the graphite gray pearl. I did that with a 2K clear on top, but everything turned out nice and neat and clean. And we're gonna go ahead and get this in there so we can have a nice non-melting dash in this car. If you guys didn't know, the 2001 is the only dash that doesn't suffer from the melting of this portion of the plastic. On the 2002 to 2005, all the dashes will eventually melt on you and just leave all kinds of black film all over your hands anytime you touch it. So sitting inside the car, we're gonna have to go ahead and just take apart all the center console, the radio, the center here, the armrest and everything out before we start diving into actually taking off the dash. We want to remove the glove box, take apart all the cluster areas, and take all the trim and panels out, and then eventually even drop the steering column down here. If you saw my video when I was taking the dash, I kind of time-lapsed through all that whole process of ripping that one out there. I wasn't too careful when I was doing that either, so we were pretty much just ripping it out and trying to keep the dash clean and free of damage when we were doing that. On this one, we want to make sure we take everything out. We don't break any tabs, we don't break any plastics or clips. So we're gonna go much more slowly on this one, and I'll stop along the way to kind of show you guys where all the bolts and all the difficult areas are. So the first thing we want to do is remove the center console or the armrest here. This is a 2002 and up one, so we have this whole armrest here to deal with. So to remove the armrest, you actually got to pop the two things on the side here. There's some screws in there that take this whole thing out, and then you got to pull this thing up, and there's a bracket down there. Then there's screws right here. There's two screws on the side, and that pretty much can take this whole thing out. This part right here pops right out. This piece of trim is just clipped in there with some compression clips, so you can just pop that out, take off the shift knob and take all this out. And then this panel down here just pulls out also. Once you do that, you'll have access to all the different screws that you can unscrew all this stuff. For the navigation unit, you actually have to pop the navigation up, and there's two screws right underneath here. If you don't have the navigation on yours, you have to lift up the little felt cover, or if you have the little cubby box, there should be two little things that give you access to the screws there so you can pull this thing out. Once you remove the top here and the bottom down here, there's actually four little screws, 10 millimeters I believe, that hold the radio and the climate control in place. So that all that comes out in one piece also. Once we get over here to the cluster, that's pretty easy. There's two screws here and then two more screws underneath here on both sides. And this lower panel, and we just pull that whole lower panel out. That pretty much takes care of everything on this side. The glove box is pretty easy to pop off. Once we get the glove box off, we have to kind of unhook the airbag and everything too. When you're doing all this, you want to disconnect your negative on your actual battery terminal so you don't accidentally set anything off. I've already disconnected that on this car. All right, we were able to get everything out pretty cleanly, except all the little edges on the inside of that melting dash just left all this crap on my hands. If you guys have done this before, you know the feeling of this crap, but we pretty much got everything out. Now that we're in here, before you pull everything out, you want to make sure you disconnect all the little harnesses and everything onto the dash on this side, on both sides. Down here, there's a little carpet that hooks onto the dash there. Probably disconnect all this stuff up here, and then of course both sides, get everything loose, and then we can pull the dash out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just finish this side and the glove box, and then I'll talk to you guys after I get that done. All right, so I was able to take apart the cluster and all this stuff over here. I went ahead and dropped the glove box right there. The glove box comes down pretty easily. You just squeeze the two sides, drop it down, and then there's two pegs that hold it right there onto the hinge. Then it drops right down. I went ahead and removed the 10mm down there. There's another 10mm up here in the corner right here, and that pretty much takes care of everything over there. I started undoing all the harnesses for the airbags and everything underneath here that you can't really see from here. And then over here I did the same. I removed the bolt down here that holds the lower piece of the dash. I took apart this lower panel right here across the bottom because I have to drop the steering column when I pull the dash out, just to make it easier for myself. I'm gonna go ahead and get in there and remove all these little harnesses that are attached to the back of the dash, so that way when we pull the dash out nothing gets caught. We gotta go ahead and take this 10mm nut here and start doing all the 10mm nuts here in the center, and then down here there's a couple of random screws that are holding it into this bottom here, and then the carpet kind of clips in on either side here. So that pretty much takes it all. You just want to undo all the clips and do all that before you start trying to yank the dash out. But we're almost there now. The airbag is held on by some 12mm, so you gotta unbolt the airbag from the bottom also. All right, we were able to take everything off as far as all the bolts, doing all the harnesses. And here you just had to pop that one, and there was actually another bolt back here. You don't have to pop these two big ones, and this bracket right here, you don't have to pop those out, they stay behind. You just need to take that screw here and that screw back there, or that nut back there. That you saw I was unbolting the airbags. I unbolted that already. I had to take apart that one bracket right there for the actual strike for the glove box. I had to unscrew that off of the vent and the actual dash so I could get the harness off of it. But I was able to disconnect that part, so that's free now. So the airbag's just kind of hanging down there. It's attached to the dash, but now that everything's loose, you should be able to pull the dash out this way because it's got those orange clips that go into the firewall over there. You got to pop that out first before it comes loose. I gotta go ahead and drop the steering wheel. There's two, I believe either 14s or 17s over here that you got to drop the nuts off of, and then the actual steering column just drops straight down, so you can do that to get a little bit more room so you can pull it out. Ooh, that was a pain in the ass. I didn't know that these side pillars actually had a tab that went inside there. I could have saved a lot of this black stuff that came off the melting dash from getting onto these things by pulling these off first, but I didn't know about them. But it looks like they're held on by a 10mm up top, and then the bottom here is this weird tab right here that I almost actually broke trying to get out right here. It goes into a slip eye hole right here that goes towards the bottom, so you have to actually slide it down, pull it out. So when you install it, you put it in down and you pull it back, and then you tighten it up here and it holds it in, and that's for the airbag, so this thing doesn't go flying when the airbag actually deploys. So I'm gonna go ahead and just clean this all up with some acetone. Hopefully the acetone takes all this black stuff off, and I'm gonna pull this dash out. All right, we got pretty much everything out of here pretty cleanly. I did leave a big old mess, as you can see earlier, from all that melting dash on my pillar and everything that I got to clean up a little bit with some acetone. You gotta be careful when you're cleaning stuff with acetone, just because acetone does melt a lot of the plastics in the car. You want to use it in a little spot where you want to test it to make sure it doesn't damage your stuff. But so we've got this thing all out. I did have a little casualty right here when I was dropping the steering column to take the dash out. This is one of the immobilizer boxes on the steering column that kind of popped out of its mounting. So I'll go ahead and just actually have to bend this thing back, put the box back in, and screw it back in correctly when I put it back together. You saw up here when I was pulling it out, there was actual navigation antenna right here that I wasn't expecting. So I actually had to trace the wire back down to here where the harness is, and then just pull it all the way up, release the clip on the side here, and I was able to take that out with the dash. And over here we got the dash. As you can see, I've got it set up on here. I gotta go ahead and take off the airbag, take off all the ducts, transfer all this duct work and all the pieces and parts over to the new dash. I did take all that stuff off the junkyard dash, but it's been over 2 years since I did that. I don't know where I put all the hardware and the screws and everything, so I'm gonna just go ahead and reuse all the screws from here. In the future, I'm gonna go ahead and refurbish this dash, make a video about it to show you how to refurbish it and clean it up, and go ahead and refinish it with the trim black. When I do that, I'll go find all the hardware and all the screws and then put it all back together so this thing's all back in one piece. Over here you can see we went ahead and cleaned this thing up with the acetone. Like I said earlier, when you're using acetone, you want to make sure you don't get it on any just bare plastic. This acetone will actually melt your bare plastic. Luckily, this felt right here is kind of resistant to it, so I was able to clean up all this stuff right here with that acetone. It got it pretty much all off. It did leave a little gray stain, but with it being in the corner there with the dash, you'll probably hardly notice it. Eventually, the sun and the UV will probably fade that all out back to this gray color anyways. Hey guys, thanks for joining me on this quick video on taking this dash out and showing you guys all the little nuances on trying to get this thing out without damaging anything. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here just for the removal, and on the next video I'll show you guys how to actually put the dash back in. But before I actually do that, I'm gonna go ahead and put my clutch pedal and my brake pedal for my manual swap in, since I got my dash out already. I'll have that video when I go ahead and do all the manual swap stuff in a couple of months. But for right now, I'm just go ahead and put that in there since I have easy access to all the bolts and all the screws and everything to get the clutch pedal in and drill my holes. If you guys found this video useful for what you're doing, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and stay on top of all my different DIY projects, whether it's on the IS300, the IS250, the Sienna, the garage, or whatever I'm doing around the house. Remember guys, for all these different videos, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.